get started. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are. I'll go ahead and get started. This is our bi-weekly session that we typically do on our products related to large language models and generative AI. I'm going to go over some of the learning offerings that we have. We have different courses. Some are in person, some are online, and some are instructor-led online, and some are actually self-paced. So we'll go ahead and get started. We've been around for a long time, one of the oldest companies in this space, one of the most respected companies as well. A lot of graduates and 11,000 plus graduates through our enterprise and public offerings. And also, these are not self-paced or online trainings. This is actually face-to-face interaction, instructor-led live instruction, whether through Zoom or in person in a classroom setting. I'll go ahead and jump right in about our large language models offering. So this the story goes back to 2021, late 2021. ChatGPT, OpenAI, they came out with ChatGPT, and then definitely suddenly generative AI and large language models, they were mainstream. We started dabbling with it, and then on our services side, they started actually asking, our customers started to ask us to build solutions. We started building solutions, and then we realized, while the common LLM use cases, creating this a very basic conversational agent or summarization content generation agent in Bard or ChatGPT or Claude, they may be very easy to build. But in reality, when you try to adopt these solutions in a real world enterprise scenario, there are some challenges that you run into. And these challenges could span a lot of different things. Is your data secure? Models don't know whether which data they should be generating a response from, or which data is off limits, right? So it could also be within the same organization, you have access to certain things, and I don't have access to certain things. How do we prevent that information leakage or access control on data? Then there were issues like other regulatory challenges, and there's some technical challenges as well, right? So it may look like ChatGPT makes us look like when we go and use it here, it is free. But the reality of it is that the token usage and costs, they add up very quickly. Then there is this notion of context window. Can you always stay within the context window, right? So how do you break the documents down before building your LLM applications? Then there is, there is a few different things that you optimize your applications around. Broadly speaking, you are finding these trade-offs between the cost, the latency, and the correctness of response. How relevant or correct the response is, how quickly the model gives you the response, and how much does it cost? And usually these are actually conflicting trade-offs. I've mentioned data governance already, whether you should be using open source or closed source models. Hallucinations, right? So pretty much anyone who has used ChatGPT, or any of these large language models, they're aware of this idea of hallucinations. How do you prevent hallucination from happening? How do you take preventive measures to actually manage hallucinations? And once they have happened, how do you actually detect what are the reasons for the hallucinations to happen? Then how do you detect and prevent and correct anything related to hallucinations? How do you evaluate a model in a traditional classical machine learning model? Well, it's a correct prediction or a wrong prediction, right? So this is, or maybe If I'm in a regression setting, I'm off by 10, I'm off by 100, I'm off by 1,000. In this case, it is text. How do you evaluate a large language model? Then there are so many issues. I can keep going. I mean, I have this brittleness of prompts as well. Prompts are very brittle. The way these models work is that even a small change in the form of verb can sometimes result in can often actually result in a different response. How do you actually handle all of these issues? So we came up with these offerings. Primarily, we came up with this Large Language Models Bootcamp. This is an in-person bootcamp, on-site, in-person, 40-hour immersive program in class setting. And pretty much in 40 hours, we introduce you to a lot of these ideas. And I will walk everyone through the curriculum in just a moment. And then at the end or the last day of the training, you actually build your own working application. You deploy it through your own GitHub. You deploy that as a web app in Streamlit Cloud, and you have your own URL of a working large language model application. So that's an audacious, ambitious goal. But we have been doing this for close to more than half a year, like almost 8 months now. We are the only company that is doing it, by the way, in the world that is offering this in-person bootcamp. I'm sure more companies should pop up anytime very soon. The differentiator is that we are not just a training company. We have a large language model product as well. And we also are providing services to some big names globally. We are building LLM applications for other companies. So we know how all of this is done. I will walk you through the curriculum in a moment. And then we also have live instructor-led courses. In addition to that, we have self-paced courses as well that we'll talk about. So what's special about the bootcamp? The curriculum is comprehensive. We have been modifying. We have never, in the last 7 to 8 months, no two bootcamps have been the same because the landscape is changing so rapidly. Our curriculum has shifted quite a bit. Anytime LangChain, Llama Index, OpenAI, any of the vector databases, if they come up with something new, we actually include that in our curriculum. How do we do that? Because we end up using it for our own product. And then as soon as we understand how this thing is and what it is, it makes its way into the course offering. So it is one of the most comprehensive curriculums in industry out there. All the mainstream large language model tools, the libraries and packages are included. I will show you our sandboxes, hundreds of exercises that we do a few dozen, maybe at least, I would say 3 dozen exercises in class during the bootcamp that we do. Distinct exercises along, and I will show you the notebooks, and then you have hundreds more that you can actually undertake once you're done with the bootcamp. And then at the end of the week, you have a comprehensive project with mentoring, and people have been, even with minimal coding background, the way we have structured this whole thing is that people have been able to actually build an LLM application. These are our partners. We have been partnering with some of the top players in industry. These are one of the leading companies working on cutting-edge technologies in this space. Now, in terms of is it only technical? No. We actually also have some real case studies from industry. So it is not just that we are only teaching you technology, we are also teaching you business. And I have been in this space for quite some time. And one of the things that I tell individuals and companies alike, any time when you go and start adopting analytics or machine learning or data science or AI and now generative AI, a lot of it is also also a cultural problem. And primarily, analytics is a cultural problem, right? So there are other barriers, but culture is a big barrier. And then understanding of business challenges, it is very important. To that end, we have some real world examples, some companies, some of the speakers who have built solutions in some companies and some speakers, they have built solutions internally. They will come and talk about the challenges they faced when they built, both technical challenges and also the business and organizational and cultural challenges. Then I think I've talked about the hands-on exercises in building an LLM application at the end of the bootcamp part. Let me go over at a very high level what an LLM application would entail. At the core of it, an LLM application has this thing what we call an LLM, right? It could be a closed source, it could be an open source deployed in Azure, AWS, maybe your self-hosted deployment. Maybe you're doing it in your own on your own laptop, depending upon how big the model is. Then within this ecosystem, you also need a vector database, I will explain why do you need a vector database here. But besides vector database, you need to actually have some way of creating embeddings. How do you convert your, the text that you are uploading into this application? How do you convert those to embeddings? So you need an embedding model. Then you need some sort of caching mechanism, and this is the semantic caching mechanism. How do you log and put guardrails on top of your LLM application, and so on? How do you actually orchestrate the entire thing? How do you break the data down? How do you connect your application to a SharePoint or a Dropbox? How do you read a PDF versus how do you read a docx file? How do you augment the data set with some additional information? So a lot of this, actually, if you see, there are some names, OpenAI, Cohere, and Hugging Face is there, then BB8, they are our partners here. We have, if you look at this, we have this, Labs is a partner. They will be, they actually help us in, the logging and LLM ops side. LangChain, they are also our partner in terms of, we use LangChain. Actually, we have a very detailed module on LangChain. So we actually cover the entire ecosystem, and you see app hosting. So at the end of the bootcamp, once you have learned all of this, we give you some sample data sets, possibly some YouTube videos, some PDFs, and you build these LLM agents and deploy them in the Streamlit cloud. Let me actually go over the curriculum. What does the curriculum look like? So when you come in, you get access to this course in the learning platform. This is a companion course that we have set up in our learning platform. We start with the idea of embeddings. We start with embeddings, and we go all the way back. We start with how did we traditionally encode text? We used to encode text with one-hot encoding and count-based encoding and TF-IDF and n-grams and bigrams. Then somewhat of a semantic approaches they started, and we started using word-to-vec, glove, etc. So we cover all of this, and then we land eventually on what we know now as transformers. So we build that necessary foundation. Unlike most courses that directly actually talk about transformers, we as an educator, I think that we need to build that solid foundation. So you would actually start with your those exercises. You will start with those, and if you can see here, I have these exercises. Then I will come to transformers. Let me actually go here and try to open it. You can see that I click on this. So these exercises, these are our Python exercises. Some are done in class. Some we give them to you for later for your reference. And now you can see that TF-IDF versus word embeddings, word to vec, and OpenAI embedding model. So we actually have this very detailed exercise. You can see I am going down, 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 and we walk you through. Like, we build a solid foundation. It is not we don't. I personally do not like teaching in a manner where we just teach you, hey, go use this library. So setting up solid foundation, and then actually go and you understand why certain things exist the way they do. So that is done. Then you go similarly in transformers and attention mechanism. You will go to sentence transformers. Then we go here. You can see vector databases. And we have vector databases. Start with vector search. I will click on this. So we talk about, for instance, right? So when we embeddings are done, when we go to vector databases, so we don't go to the hands-on exercise until we explain to you why a vector database, how is it different from a traditional relational or a NoSQL database, and then what kind of indexing approaches exist to organize the data, HNSW, product quantization, and all of that. Then we talk about retrieval approaches. And then once we are done with that, once we have solidified this, now you can see that we are talking about vector search. We are talking about similarity search. We are talking about hybrid search, multi-tenancy, all of that. All these exercises, they happen in class. So I can randomly open something here. So you can see that. And why are we doing it this way? Well, this is a Jupyter notebook. Most of you, Jupyter notebooks are Jupyter notebooks. But what we have been doing this, 11,000 people is a lot of people to actually collect enough data. Previously, until a few years ago, we would give people the code samples, and they would, hey, I cannot install this package. Hey, my IT would not let me install this package. My Mac or my Windows machine cannot install this. There's a conflict that is happening between Python version this. Hey, which Python version did I exactly need to install? All of those issues. And we spent more time on resolving what are more logistics as opposed to learning. So this actually streamlines all the learning process. No need to worry about it, right? So basically, it's all in the learning platform. If you have a learning platform account, you click on this, and then you're good to go. We give you access to VV8 servers. VV8 is our vector database partner. We actually have an excellent speaker. Zen, I love the way he explains all these concepts. A great teacher, great instructor. So he comes in, he explains all the concepts, and then he leads these exercises. So we actually walk everyone through these exercises. Now that you understand why vector search and why similarity search and why hybrid search, what is multi-tenancy and so on. And then there are supplementary exercises as well. We also, once you understand this whole idea of vector databases, we talk about advanced RAG. How do you build an advanced RAG pipeline, so nuances of RAG and all of that? We talk about that. We briefly touch upon prompt engineering. Why briefly? Because prompt engineering is something that you will learn on your own. It is your own undertaking. Well, we do have these sandboxes. We have plenty of exercises for you. We actually have built this. Let me go there. We actually have built this, the prompt engineering sandboxes, where you can actually go and practice. You have access to these prompt engineering sandboxes. So anytime you learn a technique, you can actually go and practice that technique inline in this coding sandbox. I'm just randomly punching it in. It gives me an output. I am actually going here. I'm playing around with my prompt. I'm playing around with the settings, and That's it, right? So, and then you don't have to worry about, if you want to practice. You don't, basically you're focused on learning. You're not actually hopping, hey, where should I go to practice this? So most courses out there, what they do is they give you instructions, but where do you practice? We have lowered that barrier. Uh, we have lowered the barrier for everyone, so people don't waste time on configuration and other issues. So it's a fairly well thought out set of a bunch of resources. I would say more than 50 or maybe even more, close to 100 prompt engineering exercises that you can play around in any domain. It's part of it. Then fine-tuning. So we also talk about, I believe we do fine-tuning on day 3 or day 4, depending upon, the curriculum is constantly changing. So fine-tuning, we start with, once again, all the foundational material. We explain what fine-tuning is. We explain, transfer learning, fine-tuning, why fine-tuning is needed. We explain the idea of quantization, which is, how do you reduce the size of the model, the idea of quantization, low rank adaptation. We talk about all of these ideas. And then we give you an actual, we give you a GPU cloud. We give you a GPU cloud or a GPU cluster, actually, where we ask you to build, where we ask you to build or fine-tune a model. So we give you a Llama 2, 7 billion parameters, 4-bit quantized model, and then you go and modify the model. And then, of course, it's a guided session that you do. Then we talk about small language models as well, conversational AI, domain-specific models. This is, once again, this is led by one of our partners, Karthik. He is amazing when it comes to the instruction. He talks about why do we need domain-specific models, and then they have this model around conversational AI that we actually, there are some hands-on exercises around that. We spend quite a bit of time on LangChain, to the point that we actually have a separate course for LangChain outside of this. So if I showed you, we cover all the important, about 6-ish hours. I used to spend about 6 hours on just LangChain out of the 40 hours that we have. And then we talk about all the ideas. How do you use a chat model? How do you use a multimodal model? How do you define prompts? How do you, how do you create prompt templates? How do you use in the same piece of code? How can you remove one of the models and add another model? So LangChain actually makes all of these tasks very easy. How do you connect to different data sources? How do you parse a PDF? How do you handle a JSON? How do you handle a CSV? How do you split the text? How do you change the embedding models? I can keep going, but the way, once again, this works is we have these exercises on retrievers and document loaders and text splitters. So let me click on retrievers, for instance. If I clicked on this, again, the exercise pops up, all the dependencies, everything is resolved. We also will give you this, the API key. Let me actually bring up my API key here. Maybe I can give you a flavor of this. Just bear with me. I'll copy and paste my key here. Okay, I hope this works. Okay, so if you look at this, I copied my API key, and now all of you get that API key from us. It is on us. We bear that cost off. And now this is just an example. So we have already talked about what is a recursive character text splitter. We run it, and then you can see that over here, whatever the outcome is, then we are talking about multi-query retriever. You can see we explain what is the rationale for using a multi-query retriever. Why do we need it? And then we see an actual hands-on exercise on that multi-query retriever. Then maybe I can show you one more example here. So for instance, chains. Many times you need many times uh, you need to break down your LLM function calls into multiple function calls. So in that scenario, you need chains. So let's say if I go and click on simple summarization chains, I will go and if I go simple sequential chains rather, and again, the same thing, uh, I will run it. And when I run it, you can see that, I'm using a GPT 3.5 Turbo. So there are some settings here. And then in this case, I'm breaking my API call into two API calls or two LLM calls. And in this case, it's a very simple example where in the first part, let me go here. So basically, if you look at this, right now the example is it asks the user for a location. I'm based in Seattle, so I will put a Seattle here. So I will run it, and let's see what happens. So first, it actually the first part of the first link in the chain, it actually comes up with a dish from Seattle. And then the second part of the chain, it actually comes up with a recipe for that. We ask people to add another third link to the chain. And we explain why this chaining is needed. Someone may say, hey, why didn't it go and just do it in one go, one stretch? Why did we need first find out the dish and then a recipe? Why not suggest a dish and a recipe and its recipe from Seattle? So there are some very nuanced points that we discussed in class, right? So this is sometimes people tend to think, hey, this is why do we need 40 hours? I mean, this is too long and this is too much, right? So, but the reality of it is when if you want to do something non-trivial, there is some non-trivial amount of effort and non-trivial amount of focus and discussion that is needed. So all of this actually starts to make sense, when we start talking about it face to face. If you get stuck, a lot of intense questioning back and forth that happens, and we are there to unblock you. We have multiple instructors in the room that are there to unblock you. So I can show you now memory. How do you implement memory? For instance, LLMs don't remember what was your previous interaction with them. ChatGPT, just like when I asked the next query, GPT application, it actually takes the previous and the previous and the previous query and responses and gives it to you or gives it to the LLM, and then it is properly interpreted. So how do you introduce the memory? And then we talk about, you can see fixed length memory, conversation buffer. How do you build a knowledge graph on your conversation? All of these exercises, if you look at this, a lot of these exercises are there as well. So often people ask, do you teach how to create agents? Yes, I mean, we talk about this agentic behavior using tools, and eventually we touch upon briefly on LangGraph as well. LangGraph is more, if you have multiple agents, how do these agents actually interact with each other? So that's a very intense, detailed module that is there. Then we have observability and monitoring and guardrails. So easier said than done. When you deploy an LLM application, it might seem tempting to go and deploy it, but you have to monitor. You have to monitor the consumption of tokens and what are the costs and how many queries, how much usage. Are there any queries that are toxic? Are there any queries that don't meet the guidelines? How can you prevent the model from responding to a query that it should not be responding to? You must have seen interesting stories around models misfiring. I think there was a story, some car dealer, they deployed the model and their chatbot actually offered I think a Ford truck for $1, right? So and then it was making rounds on social media, right? So everyone was sharing that. Air Canada, their bot offered a bereavement fare when it did not exist. So how do you prevent these things from happening? How do you put guardrails on the model? So we have all of those ideas. We also talk about data governance and access controls, because if anyone can build a chatbot on any data, how do you prevent data? How do you prevent me from building? How do you prevent my model rather to ingest some data source that I did not have access to? So, for instance, right? So, you built a model. I'm in the same team. You push some data into that model that I should not have access to. So, should the model respond to me or it shouldn't? So, there are some AI and data governance issues that we need to be mindful of. Let me see what else. Evaluation. Evaluation is the most important part. How do you evaluate a model? In a regular model, in a traditional machine learning model, you're right or wrong. You're off by some number. So how do you actually evaluate a large language model response? What else? We talk about deployment as well. And then on the last day, we sum everything up, and then we have a session, which is, again, a very intense session, a 2-hour intense session, where we again go into the nuances of RAG applications, right? So where are all the bottlenecks? What could go wrong in chunking? What could go wrong in vector databases? What could go wrong how do you structure your query? And we talk about a lot of challenges and possible mitigations or elimination of those challenges. Everyone then proceeds to, we give everyone the resources that they need. So all the software is included, by the way, right? So have been obvious by now, but I should repeat that any tokens, any software, any cloud resources, any GPU clusters, any virtual machines, everything is provided by us. So there is up to $500 of usage that is included in this. So basically, all the costs of infrastructure, they are included in your bootcamp registration. And then on the last day, everyone gets a VM. And so let me step back, right? So there is a common question. Hey, I'm not a programmer. Can I attend? As long as you can read Python code, you will be fine. Because so let's say you're a product manager who's working on building LLM products. You don't write code actively, but you're okay, right? So you are, you can read code, you can understand, and if someone explains the code to you, all you have to do is run, right? So, but you still understand, right? Why do you need a multi-query or multi-vector retriever? Why do you need a semantic memory? Why do you need tools in LangChain? When would you go for HNSW? When would you quantize an LLM? So all of these issues, you should be able to actually understand everything in detail. And even if you don't want to modify the code, all you have to do is run. And if you can understand what is going on, that's it. But if you want to build applications, of course, the assumption is that you already know how to. We are not a coding bootcamp, so we will not teach you coding from scratch. But for those of you who don't know Python, we have a Python tutorial, and that's pretty much the only prerequisite. But people who did not have any programming background, they have been fine. Even for building the LLM application, we give you boilerplate code set up in a VM in VS Code. And so we have done it in a way that you can get by with learning, even without having a formal programming background. And that's the fun part of it, right? So we give you a Streamlit web application completely set up in VS Code in a VM. Everyone gets their own VM. You log into the VM, everything is set up, you run. We give you exercises, you modify, you create a GitHub account. If you don't have one, you push the code into GitHub, and from GitHub, you actually push that into Streamlit Cloud, and you have your own working you have your own working LLM application. We give you more exercises. You make those changes, and you push those changes into your LLM application. So it's a fairly intense experience, like our data science bootcamp. We are known for getting people from 0 to 60, or maybe not 0 to 60, maybe 0 to 50. Like very, very practical, pragmatic, relevant, up-to-date curriculum. And then you are next time around, when you next Monday, the Friday, end the bootcamp on Friday, starting Monday, you are actually ready to build a real application on, or at least not, even if you're not building it yourself, you understand, because some of the technical product managers and some of the project and program managers and managers in general, they have also attended, not because they would be hands-on building applications on their own. They wanted to learn how to guide the product, how to guide a team of individuals who are actually building applications. So let me see what we have. And I will come to the questions. I see some questions popping up already. Let me see. We have talked about the curriculum. This is our technology stack. And interestingly speaking, we recently added Azure to our technology stack. So we have been using primarily, I think VV8 is missing from here. So actually VV8 is our primary, I don't know, we were making some changes, this slide deck, but VV8 is our primary vector database that we use. And then we touch upon a few others as well. OpenAI is our primary large language model. We touch upon Symbol, and we touch upon Llama as well, and touch upon others as well, a few exercises here and there. Once you know how to use one, others are just, the same thing in a different packaging. Then LangChain and Llama Index are there. Then from a deployment standpoint and deployment and hosting and LLM ops standpoint, we have prompt flows there. We have YLabs and RunPod, YLabs in monitoring and observability. Then RunPod is there. They actually give our attendees the credits for the GPUs, the GPU clusters. Everyone gets credit for using the GPU cloud. And then we also have a security AI. They are more into data governance and all of that. And deployment, we are using Streamlit, and we host the model on Hugging Face. So you will understand this ecosystem really well by the end of the bootcamp, right? So it is a fairly comprehensive end-to-end bigger picture, taught by practitioners for practitioners. So if you want to go and become a practitioner, a product builder, a product manager, technical product manager, this is the training for you, right? So there's, our data science bootcamp, once again, the most comprehensive bootcamp in industry. And this bootcamp is the only bootcamp in the industry, right? So, when you say bootcamp, it has to have end-to-end coverage. So that's where we are. I've talked about all of these vector databases. You see the VV8 logo here, right? So, somehow missed in the main ecosystem slide. We talk about all of these things. I've already mentioned all of this. This is our speaker lineup through our partners and our guest speakers for every bootcamp. And we are constantly adding more partners. And we bring in companies that are working at the cutting edge of this space. This is our partners. Our partners, they have been actually enjoying that experience because one thing that they like about it is that the quality of people that we get. The people that we get, usually, it's the cohort that the composition of cohort is actually people are coming from a variety of background, very knowledgeable people. So it actually creates a very interesting, unique learning experience. Lots of companies, we've started fairly recently. You can see that we have had people coming all the way from Australia or Middle East, travel all the way to US. We had a bootcamp in DC, Austin, and Many of the boot camps have been happening in Seattle. The next one is happening in Seattle. People have traveled across the globe to just attend the boot camp, and you can see some of the companies that have been represented at our boot camp. So that ends my presentation for now. Our next boot camp is scheduled in Seattle, and this is an in-person boot camp, but we are doing a brief. We did a brief pilot, and now what we are doing is we are planning to allow some limited. We are allowing some limited number of online attendees. So our classroom is such that we have multiple cameras in the classroom, so you can see the people sitting in the class as well. So let me rephrase. So we have this in-person bootcamp happening in Seattle. So that's happening. But for the same bootcamp, the same 40-hour bootcamp in 5 days, you have the option of attending it remotely. Time zones can be a challenge, of course. We are based in Seattle, so adjust your time zone accordingly. What time it will be from around 8:30 to 5, and sometimes we go over, so 8:30 to 5:30-ish, or 8:30 to 5. And whatever that time translates to on your side. But you will have the option of asking questions, interacting with the instructor, interacting with other people in the audience, and ask questions. So you will be attending this if anyone is attending it remotely. But primarily it is happening in person. But we have been receiving a large number of requests. Can I attend this bootcamp remotely? And we piloted it last time. Some people, they did attend sessions remotely, and now we are opening it to general public. So if you want to attend remotely, please feel free to, right? So, but do talk to us. Once you have registered, we'll reach out to you, and then make sure that you have the right setup in terms of technology, and you're set up for success, right? We have a stellar reputation when it comes to customer focus, right? So people know that we are genuinely interested in making everyone successful. So we will work with you to make sure that even if you're attending remotely, you're successful. So let me take these questions. I see some questions. Richard, your question is, how do I become a partner? So I am not sure what are you doing in terms of if you are in the LLM space, we would love to talk to you. And why don't you actually drop us an email? Just feel free to, there is a partner page. Maybe my team can actually post a link to the partner page. So there is actually a partner page where we can actually set up a time with you. So feel free to reach out to us. What is the duration of the bootcamp? This is the question from Srinivasa. What's the duration of the bootcamp? The bootcamp is 40 hours, about 8 to 9 hours a day for 5 days. So that's the duration of the bootcamp. It is straight 5 days. Rishab, your question is this bootcamp only in person? I just mentioned it used to be only in person, but now this is hybrid, or I should not say hybrid. Basically, you can choose to be online as well. And then some people, they will be in the classroom in Seattle. And then if you want to attend this remotely, you can actually attend it. Okay, let me go and where can I find the API key? So Swapna, we cannot give you the key because for obvious reasons. But when you sign up and when you show up in the classroom, we give you a key that, on Monday morning when you start. And then, of course, the key is revoked. Only the API key. Rest of the infrastructure, rest of the software, everything, you have it. But the API key for OpenAI, that is actually revoked because of this whole business being fairly expensive, actually. Okay. Sorry, can this recording be shared with us? Yes, absolutely. This recording is going to be, this is a LinkedIn Live, so you can actually look at our, and I think we also post this on YouTube. So look at our YouTube channel or LinkedIn Live for the event, and this should get converted into a a recording. And Peter, this is more of a comment than a question. That was the main problem we had at AWS. So much time wasted with versions and environments set up correctly instead of learning. Exactly. So Peter, this is exactly why we are doing it. We do not want to waste time on resolving dependency and dealing with library issues, because that ends up being a time sink. It's all streamlined. Everything is, and then of course it costs us. When you click on a notebook, of course, we spin up something and behind the scenes, and everyone has a dedicated space. I'm not sure if it's obvious, but if you look in the URL here, in the URL, there is my name there. So everyone gets their own dedicated space. So if you modify the code, if you want to create new code samples, you're more than welcome to. And you have access to this entire infrastructure for 1 year from the bootcamp date. So we are pretty generous with sharing all the resources with everyone. And also, if there is a new session, if there is a new module that is added, you will have recordings to it, and we invite our alumni to actually come back and attend any new session that wasn't done before. So let's say something groundbreaking happens 6 months from now, and we think that we should include that in our curriculum. We will invite you through a Zoom call that you're more than welcome to actually attend that session, because the space is changing very, very quickly, and everyone needs to stay up to date, and then we will do what we can to keep you up to date. Okay, and RK on YouTube had the same question: is remote attendance possible? I have answered that question already. Let me see. There are more questions that have been added, I guess. Let me see. Okay. I think that should be it. If there are any more questions, I'm happy to answer. If not, no, I'll just end our information session. Are there any questions that anyone has? Okay. In that case, thanks everyone, and I hope to see some of you at the bootcamp.